In this matchup, these two players are running rogue, so I feel that whoever wins with their warrior first is not an especially big deal because this is, again, Conquest. You can keep playing with the deck you lose with as long as they're able to get it into the rogue on the other side.
Interesting hands to get things rolling. I do kind of, yeah, as we saw from Hi3, expect to see a full mull from GivePLZ. Kind of expecting to see full mull apart from the Gnarg as the one card you would like to keep. I do still think you're looking for the cards that fill up your hand. You know, Watley's premium, even finding, although it's not super powerful at the start, the conditioning could be very powerful to set up for those stronger mid games.
Agreed. I think conditioning is so premium in the matchup, and even if you can't hit that or the Watley, just things like Athletic Study, Stage Dive to get you cheaper minions and buff minions, because the early game in Rush Warriors sometimes pans out in such a way where it's like Gnarg and then no further pressure, and it's really turn 5 where things start ramping up. But there are panouts where Tempo Parade Leader, Tempo Playmaker can come down, and then as long as you have an answer for one of those, that's kind of just like the first checkpoint you make it through, and then it becomes a battle of who gets the most conditionings or the best value trades on enough resources.
Very interesting start here though for Hi3 in the ETC looks looked tempting here because it obviously can survive the swing from the weapon once that comes online. And potentially even going ETC into Rakara is interesting in a weird way, because obviously Rakara is being given up as cannon fodder to the War Axe. But the ETC at least gets to become a 2-5, which is pretty survivable.
It is, but you can make a similar argument for Parade Leader in that it just doesn't die this turn because the weapon still hasn't woken up. And this Playmaker is threatening to GivePLZ. From his perspective, there could be Bumper Car in hand, so just developing his own Parade Leader doesn't look good. Rakara coming down the very next turn is very powerful. And if GivePLZ plays nothing, Hi3 can also just play Tempo Playmaker and say that your weapon is only going to clear one of these. As it happens, GivePLZ respects it so much that he discovers the Murloc in order to kill it off. And I think that's a win overall for Hi3.
Oh yeah, you're very, very... yes, a win for Hi3. For GivePLZ though. Nice to just clear it off so that Rakara can't do its thing. And now for Hi3, do you deviate back and go to the ETC as the one thing that does survive the weapon swing? Do you just start throwing out minions knowing that they're going to die because you have to get through the axe somehow? Or do you just hero power and start setting up for a stronger mid game?
There's definitely so many ways to approach it. I am leaning towards the ETC because, yes, it does survive to the weapon. If GivePLZ plays out a rush minion, that's the scariest thing. But again, he's only running one copy of the Tent Trasher. That's the highest priority threat that Hi3 will have on his mind this early on. If the ETC does come on board, the problem is it doesn't actually challenge anything. But because he has Rakara in hand, it can potentially become a threat. So if he didn't have Rakara in hand, I would be saying Cult Neophyte here probably. But because there's Rakara, I do like the ETC.
Yeah, my main concern isn't even really the ETC has to do something. It's just that you start playing cards from your hand, but Rakara kind of didn't expect to see that, as he's literally just going for the cannon fodder route, hoping to burn through the axe with his own minions' faces. Not an especially efficient way to do it. And it does mean that GivePLZ has got himself off to a premium start, like Coin Parade Leader Bumper Car looks pretty good to me, setting up for that Swordy to the turn after as well. It's just so far in the lead.
It's so powerful. And while I do think he goes for that play, I don't even know if the Bumper Car trades into Rakara. You probably can, because it's still alive at 3-1. It's not the easiest for Warrior to deal with, and you get the tokens. But like even weapon swinging into it and saving the most health on his board is very good, because GivePLZ just has so many resources. I just don't know what could be going through his mind, because Tempo Rakara into a known weapon waking up feels like such a fishy play. I don't know what Hi3's plan is. I guess he's a spend your mana gamer. Like, he did play out a card on curve, and he's saying Playmaker is more valuable than Rakara, but I hesitate to agree with that, because Rakara could potentially have come down this turn and then VT'd over a 2-2 at least.
It's really tough, right? Because You're correct about the VT on this turn, but Rakara is one of those cards that, you know, it's super powerful effect, but if you don't have board, it's not that good a lot of the time. Whereas Playmaker, if he draws Bumper Car off the top, he already needs to start considering his outs. And, you know, he's in a pretty disastrous situation already. So if he can get Bumper Car, if he can get Samuro, maybe the Playmaker is the card to synergize with those to swing things back.
For sure. I didn't like Playmaker last turn either. That's why I would say ETC. And then it obviously would have died this turn to like Bumper Car and Weapon, but it would still take a weapon trade and some resources from GivePLZ, and then the car able to rush can deal with some of this board potentially, but now he has pretty much nothing. ETC dead on board, Cult Neophyte dead to Weapon, Playmaker dead to Weapon, Ogremancer dead to the board next turn as well. It's just a disaster.
Yeah, it just shows the power of Gnog in the starting hand. It makes you wonder how this was ever not run in Warrior, because even though it's, you know, correctly been stated that anything after turn 1 it becomes the worst card in your deck, it's just so worth it. You just win the matchup essentially if you're able to get it down on turn 1. And GivePLZ again, swing Sword Eater. It's so clean and so powerful.
And already for Hi3, I think he's on a Samuro out to come back into this game. And it needs to be buffed, so if the next card is Stage Dive, he can immediately corrupt it with Ogremancer. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we're now on a conditioning top deck out for Hi3?
Yeah, it's conditioning / parade leader right at the 2 outs for him to swing back this board.
In the meantime, Ogremancer cleared up all too easily. GivePLZ has conditioning as well on all of the Dark Moon Riders.
Yeah, it's so sick.
2 into Ogremancer. Okay, just weapon swing, sure, yeah. Doesn't need to give up his board whatsoever.
And now it's not the one turn where Samuro is good for Hi3, but I'd say he has, if not this turn, generously one more turn to get there. But honestly, even that feels a little ambitious. Athletic studies into Rakara doesn't get the job done. With the Playmaker, could he get... The Razor Gill doesn't get there either because of the Taunt.
Yeah, Rakara's the only 3 natural cost rush minions, so there's just not that many good outcomes. My head was honestly at Runthak here to potentially buff the Samuro in hand, but like it's not even that much attack, right? There's 3 health on a bunch of these, so he goes Claw Machine instead, which all things considered does draw him a potential another swing card, but the Samuro's already in hand, so I don't even know what singular rush minion gets him out of this mess.
Yeah, and obviously if GivePLZ wasn't considering Samuro before, which I'm sure he was, he definitely will now, because getting a +3/+3 Samuro drawn, even though it's very unlikely, given that the deck is almost all minions, he'll definitely be thinking, how do I make this as survivable as possible? How do I win the game even if they have Samuro? To which the answer feels to me, Warmall Challenger feels pretty good as a 3/12. That's going to be a tall order indeed to clear off.
Yeah, premium. Okay, the Crab Rider is a decent pickup for Hi3. It feels bad to have to send it into a 5/3 here, but with the Playmaker, he can survive on board. Kinda has to, right?
Yeah, I don't see anything else. Again, it's... Sorry, the ability to go with Bumper Car in order to get a bunch of minions back to hand as well. And then again, maybe with the conditioning, he can get a powerful enough swing turn, because even if the Warmall Challenger is tough to kill with just the Samuro, with a couple of 3/3 rushes, then you're looking that it's very, very possible on the following turn.
I guess he's just thinking, after Playmaker, Crab Rider, is it Hero Power or Bumper Car? I'm interested in the Bumper Car because I just don't think the Hero Power gets him there. If he has to weave it in every single turn, it means he's not allowed to Playmaker the very next turn. Again, he's not dead on board if he kills everything but the Warmall Challenger. 4 HP is not a lot to work with, admittedly, but at least he will have won the board by this point.
You're not wrong. Yeah, no matter what you're doing, no matter how you're slicing it here, it's a disastrous situation for Hi3.
Not to mention, GivePLZ just has his own Samuro, which has been buffed.
Buffed again as well if he wants to. My goodness.
It just doesn't die. Trades into the 1-1.
Yeah, I think
can get out of this game.
The outs have just evaporated. No lethal outs. Even ETC here, right, is only dealing 8 damage, 10 with the perfect top deck as well. Just didn't come together for Hi3. The early game for GivePLZ was essentially won off of the Gnag, and then I think he capitalized on that beautifully. Nothing that Hi3 could really do once he entered the late stages of the game. The only questions are how he used up his minions to try and get through charges of the War Axe. Again, the Rakara was the big questionable play on that turn. Admittedly, I don't think playing out, going for hero power or playing out the ETC would really have made a big difference. But it's the one choice where maybe he could have turned things around.
Maybe would have gotten like 0.5% a bit more, but against that draw from GivePLZ, there really just wasn't much he could do to win the game overall, especially when the Samuro came into hand prior to the stage dive and with no conditioning to buff it. That's really the only big way that Warrior comes back on board. We call it Rush Warrior, and so you would think that there's a lot of ways to trade into minions, but if they've been buffed to the size of this Warmal Challenger, it's really tough to get through, even with Hi3 hitting the buffed Crab Rider with the Playmaker. However, it's not the end of the world for Hi3. It's just one game that he's lost, and he still has the Rush Warrior, which still has a decent target onto the Rogue, potentially from Hi3. From GivePLZ.
Yes, still looking like a decent outcome. I think can't hear you at the moment. I don't know if that's my problem. So you keep talking for a second and I'll reconnect.
No, sorry. I think I just ended on an upward inflection when I didn't mean to.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and so when the Rogue is able to be queued up for GivePLZ, I think Hi3 just has good matchups across the board, whether it is the Libram Paladin or the Rush Warrior. I don't think that Hi3 will feel the need to queue the Mirror at any point unless he's trying to mind game against that token Druid. But I also feel like Libram Paladin has some game against Druid anyway.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Depending on the build that you're going for, of course. But whether or not you have Broom in there can make a big difference, in addition to just the straight up good plays that you have if going for wide on the board. Druid struggles to get through all those big taunts. But it's going to be Rogue on Warrior to get things going. First of all, a matchup that we've seen go one way apiece with Chonsu and Alan kicking us off with that at the start of the day. Chonsu able to get the win on the Rogue and on the Warrior as well, for that matter. It's really just the Paladin for him that fell by the wayside. But while, again, as we've said already today, the Warrior does feel like it's in the driving seat. This is a very standard build of Miracle Rogue that GivePLZ has gone for with double Orc Merchant. I think can help a lot. Divine Shield on your field contacts I think is very important in the matchup, because even though they have ways to chew through it with Warmaul, the 1/1s, very often it's just a weapon on the other side, or a run thack that wants to come down on turn 5, which you can cleanly get in the way of with those Divine Shields.
Yeah, also worth noting that Hi3 is not running the Tent Trashers, which I feel are pretty good in the matchup. He has slotted in the Grandmasters, which, again, can be game-winning, but it's dependent on being ahead on board by the time you get that onto your side of the field, and make sure that it's just locking out the Rogues' outs if they don't have exactly Jandis or Kazaka's Golems. Hi3 has a very interesting hand because you can just view this as a curve, 2-3 into coin 5-5, but it doesn't feel like if you keep this 2-3 that you'll be ahead on board by the time Ogremaster comes down.
Yeah, you're definitely looking to be a little bit more ahead than that, and the Ogremaster, as good as it is not necessarily a keep in the starting hand. Even having said that though, Coin Watley, Ogremaster, even Cult Neophyte just to play on turn 2, this is a respectable starting hand from Hi3.
It's so difficult because a lot of the moving parts work partially together. I feel like just the Watley keep is one of the options. I think potentially just Neophyte keep is also a way to go about it, but for Hi3 with the conditioning in the opener, definitely rewarded for that Watley now. All he needs to do is not get super blown out by the early game from Rogue, which, to be fair, there's not that many hands that can do that, but GivePLZ has hit one of them.
I mean, this is when you're in these tough to win situations, when you need a win, you're thinking, right, I finally got myself a good hand. Let's just make it so the rogue doesn't have the nuts, because it feels worse when you draw a good hand and your opponent just has the absolute nuts. It feels like you've squandered your good luck at that point. But GivePLZ does have, honestly, pretty close to the dream hand. Man crit, Kazakus, field contact to follow up. Now he can even step his Foxy to go with the field contact turn next turn. Really clever play because he knows of the 1/1s in his opponent's hand. It's looking like a dream start for GivePLZ.
Yeah, definitely heads up that shadow step. But Hi3 has game of his own. The tokens now allow him to deal with the man crit. He can get one of the buff minions into hand. And the Runthak maybe is too slow against the type of field contact turn that we might expect, but the Watley is not. As long as he holds onto the coin right, and we are somewhat expecting GivePLZ to go Kazakus next turn, he could deviate because it's already a decent field contact. Actually, might just be field contact, right? But if Hi3 is expecting Kazakus, which feels more reasonable, then he's fine to just clear this turn, go for the Watley next turn, and then have the double conditioning insurmountable value hand.
It's kind of a weird choice as to what you go for here, because whether you play Crab Rider or double Dark Moon, you end up with a 1/1 in play as the outcome of that turn. But instead, you could just not play an extra Dark Moon if you wanted to here. Honestly, kind of like the look of Crab Rider there, just to have a little bit more in play. But either way, he does now have a slightly more impactful buff hand, I suppose.
Yeah, I think this halfway play is what I would like to see in case there was a huge development from GivePLZ this turn instead of just the Kazakus, because Hi3 retains the most minions in hand for conditioning. Like Crab Rider with conditioning is just far better to take several value trades.
Shout out to our wonderful observers as well. Rush and deal 3 to 2 enemy minions is again a premium outcome in this matchup. Even if it's not specifically going to come down on this turn, because it's a little awkward, of course, with the Runthak on the other side, it's still super powerful to hold on to.
Hi3 deviating from the Watley there, maybe because of hand space issues, and also just wanted to get a bigger development on board because he's scared of the Golem. Just value trading the Watley means that he's kind of weak to the field contact turn from GivePLZ, and we're once again looking for Samuro, it feels like.
He is, but for GivePLZ, he kind of whiffed on that turn. No Brain Freeze, no Prize Plunderer, as would obviously be the absolute premium option. So Hi3 now has the opportunity to capitalize this on a multitude of different ways, or in a multitude of different ways. Ogremancer looking pretty good just to lock that down. Runthak to buff his hand again. Watley to get a better hand to buff. I would hear the argument for all of these 5 drops.
Even conditioning Crab Rider was worth looking at. So you can get a bigger Ogremancer. There's just so many lines there. Hi3 going for a very quick Ogremancer, which, again, still tough for GivePLZ to deal with, even though he doesn't actually have spells. But the Jandice is his best way to develop against it. Stealth Minion is absolutely nutty.
And this is the fear of playing.
Crab Rider is still pretty good.
It is pretty good, yeah. It's really just the fear of playing Ogremancer at all, right? Is that they just play minions into it, because all of a sudden you've played a 5-mana 3/7, which is a very, very underwhelming minion for its actual mana cost.
Wow, Hi3 going with the Runthak. This is kind of greedy. Leaving Jandice on the field is always an iffy proposition to me. Okay, it looks like he might trade down the Jandice, but then he's leaving 3 more attack on the field, which also feels super scary. It feels like Hi3 went for Watley, and you already know what you're going to draw off Watley because he's not running 10 Trasher, and then decided what the rest of his turn would be, which I'm not sold about, at least the order of thought process.
Yeah, I think like quite clearly, if you're going to go with this line for Hi3 where you trade the Jandice, you were supposed to just trade the 2/2 into the Jandice and then go face with the Ogremancer, because then the Neru Fireblade is struggling to actually deal with anything on the board, whereas now the Ogremancer is just cleanly dealt with. And I do think that for Hi3, with so many powerful options in the last couple of turns, the line he went for with Ogremancer wasn't the lockout he thought it was, and it opened up, obviously, specifically Jandas as a powerful play, but there's still a Golem in hand. It could have just been Neophyte, Foxy, Octobot, Tenwu. Like, there's a bunch of minions that could have just been played out, and he kind of walked right into it.
Yeah, this is so powerful now for GivePLZ. Octobot, Guardian Augur Merchant, Golem come down, Prize Plunder will be able to pretty much one-shot something with all of these other minions for free. Okay, Golem plus Plunder plus the Rush. GivePLZ can push so much face damage, and he's only losing to Samuro by that point, feels like. Well, okay, maybe an overstatement because there is the double conditioning bumper card, but it takes a long time for Hi3 to spend all that mana. And without Playmaker, it's really tough to clear this board.
Yeah, I like the bumping on the Golem there. Just allows you to get the rush in and keeps it a little bit more survivable as well, because you do ideally want to be going for the Tenwu play where you bounce the Golem back and then play it again most likely next turn. And so now for Hi3, how do you even go about trying to swing this one back? Do you even have time to play the conditioning? Is it just like unbuffed minions on this turn? Because you can still deal with a fair bit of it.
They've still been fairly buffed by Runfac. I confess I don't know the exact size of the Crab Rider, but it feels necessary to just get rid of as much damage as possible. He knows the illusion is on the Tiger, so at least just Bumper Car can deal with that, but there's still so much damage on the board.
You can go
two
bump.
Tokens, like Bump and then Parade Leader 1 token plus Crab Rider or Conditioning Crab Rider. Okay. This does just better than Parade Leader, of course, conditioning.
Yeah, it's a good job of trying to clear off the board, but again, it's debatable if he should have even been in this situation in the first place, where he did such lackluster plays in the last couple of terms, at least in terms of their power level, not necessarily in terms of the option to pick them. But now for GivePLZ, rigged fair game looks huge here.
I was going to say, Hi3's one ray of hope was that GivePLZ was kind of out of value. He had all these discounts, but was going to float the mana. But now with the One Thief top deck, he has a good usage for Tenwu. Picks up Mask of Cthulhu and a card draw.
Yeah.
Even if it's Samuro of the top, I don't know if that's enough for Hi3 to come back.
Like, it has to be Samuro, and even if it is, like you said, it's not necessarily going to get there. Runthak doesn't get there. The 1/1s, the taunt from Sword Eater, it's not going to be enough either. Like, you'd have to go face to stop the secret. It could still be a whole bunch of other ones. I think it's all fallen apart for Hi3.
It does. I mean, he can build the biggest Sword Eater he can here with the second conditioning, Sword Eater, and Dark Moon. He's not floating any mana. It all still fits. He can remove another 3 damage on board, and partly he would survive on board from that perspective, but it doesn't feel like winning.
Yeah, he's seeing the same thing. I mean, honestly, I think it's questionable if you even swing into a minion. I would argue it might be correct to swing face here, just because of the potential for rigged fair game being such a high priority pick and being so devastating if they had picked it.
Yeah, I agree. Especially since if he trades a minion and then swings, or the other way around, then you open up potential Oasis ally because there's then board space after that. So I think swing face would be very warranted. However, if you are trading into a minion, I figure it'd be the Cult Neophyte.
Yeah, I think that was very, very close, but woof. This trade into a minion, like you said, there's a couple of ways this goes disastrously wrong, and this is one of them for Hi3. He knew it was a possibility, but he just made the snap call at the end to swing into the minion instead, and now is it just lethal available on this turn? If not, it's super close.
Yeah, with Brain Freeze, that is just lethal. Man, Hi3 has been demolished 2 games in a row by GivePLZ. That is really, really tough for Hi3 to be in for a situation, not only because this is his match to stay, or at least to be the first step to staying in Grandmasters, but because he has lost an unfavorable now and has to sweep against Token Druid, of which I would say he has 2 decent decks to use, but then the Warrior feels a bit iffy.
Yeah, these are all close matchups he has left, but again, for Hi3, I hate to question too heavily the plays of a man who's potentially on his way out of Grandmasters here. But emotions are running high no matter what. GivePLZ is going to be scared or going to be feeling bad. You'd have to imagine that he is potentially relegating a player out, but that's the way it works. And for Hi3, again, I do think he was playing that match a little bit too greedily, playing with time that he didn't actually have because of the amount of burst that Rogue has in its arsenal, even without the Master Cthulhu that was discovered there off of the Wand Thief. I think we can safely say that GivePLZ was going to win that game with the way it panned out. And so because of that, as you said, one deck left for GivePLZ, one deck that Hi3 has to sweep, and he's starting things off with just the Warrior again. It's lost twice for him already, but he's thinking, you know what, I've got to get a win with it. He has to win with all three decks. Q order matters not one iota here, and so he's just going to run it up one last time and pray that he can get the win over the defining deck of Asia Pacific, the Token Druid.
However, he does have the list of Warrior to do it, arguably with the Neophytes and the Ogremancers in there. From Hi3 last game, there were a lot of difficult decisions, and I'm not necessarily sure if the way you or I would have played it would have won the game necessarily.
Yeah.
But from Hi3, I just want to see him slow down a bit. There were so many turns where you could have taken many different lines, and it felt like he only used 20% of the time he had to actually make the play, and maybe didn't fully consider the implications of what GivePLZ's hand could look like. And that's very important against Token Druid, because you can often play around very specific breakpoints of damage. You can set up for AoE clears if you get the right amount of buffs on Samuro, and the timing of Ogremancers is once again paramount.
Absolutely crucial. Yeah, we're going to be seeing that come up very, very clutch in the matchup one, where, as you said, you're very glad to finally hit the disruption spells. I don't think that will affect the game plan from GivePLZ too heavily. You're still going to be going for the line of going for the big glowflies. I don't think you want to go for the kind of tempo line again as the Token Druid here. You want to go for these big combos where you make insurmountably large boards, and from then it's very, very difficult for the Warrior to pull back, unless they have exactly Samuro, as we've seen. But it's going to be a close one, and it is all the marbles on the line for Hi3. If he loses this single game of Hearthstone, it's the end of the run for him in Grandmasters here. Ogremancers in his starting hand, Warmaul Challenger as well. This looks like a decent enough starting hand. The
Warmaul, I feel, is kind of low impact against Druid, actually.
Okay.
Because unless they play specifically Thorngrove Sentries, it's not actually trading anything until there's 7 anythings on the board or 6 anythings on the board. And I do favor Hi3 looking for something a bit more proactive. And the stage dive, it was an interesting keep, especially on the coin, but he didn't necessarily have a good way to corrupt it because the Ogremancers is a little bit too slow to hope for that. Maybe he's just hard mulling for Samuro, and in either situation, he has ended up with a better hand. Just the parade leaders on curve are decent against Token Druid.
And boy, oh boy, have we got a spicy hand already. GivePLZ has the option, of course, to go with, what would it be, 5 glowflies on this turn, which I was going to say feels like a little bit overly aggressive, but he's just letting rip right now. 2 of them guaranteed to die, and, I mean, very possibly more to die afterwards.
True. Oh, bumper car up the top. That's so big for Hi3. For GivePLZ, I'd have to imagine he's just trying to develop before the coin Ogremancers turn, but
right.
If Hi3 has any rush minion here, even if it's not bumper car like Crab Rider or just something off Athletic Studies, it feels like GivePLZ did not do very much. And take a value trade and develop a 1/1, but it honestly feels like hero power is stronger than that.
Honestly, if I was GivePLZ here, if my opponent just showed me Ogremancers, I'd just call it in already. Like,
yeah.
I don't see him coming back in this game. His hand, his board is too small. His hand is too small. He can't cheat enough mana. These VTs are not very good, even with the extra adorable infestation muscles you get.
These are just... Yeah, I think he is probably going to end up on guess. Wait, okay, never mind. Going for front-loading all of the board development. If he went for first glowfly like that, you'd have to assume he is just trying to have a board that can potentially answer coin Ogremancers, but this is not it.
And while we were criticizing Hi3 for overvaluing the Ogremancer in the previous matchup, make no mistake, this is the Grim Reaper for Token Druid. This single card essentially can just lock you out of the game. This one play is the one that potentially gives him a chance because, of course, he has enough development to potentially kill off the Ogremancer next turn. But even having said that, Hi3 just has so many strong responses against this. My goodness.
Yeah, GivePLZ is just hoping that there's no way to buff the tokens that he knows are in hand, but Hi3 has conditioning with Dark Moons and Bumper Car, and I love that he's taking his time here because it does seem like a straightforward turn, but there's many branching paths he can take. There's consideration for even the Sword Eater here to put another taunt in the way to protect the Ogremancer. Overall, I still like conditioning to clear off as many minions as possible, though.
Yeah, I think like if you run through it in your head, if you kill off, what would it be, 4 of these minions at this point, it's so unlikely that they'll be able to find a way to kill off the Ogremancer afterwards, right? Like, I guess if you trade everything in and then go for Lunar Eclipse, that does technically do it, but it has to be available right now.
A small thing I was interested in was maybe the 2/2 taunt taking a VT into the Marsola instead, because that would leave GivePLZ with kind of an awkward board. He just doesn't want a hero power to deal with the taunt that way. Whereas, obviously, this is still tough for GivePLZ to deal with. Still looking for the Lunar and praying that he can finally end this nightmare of an Ogremancer. But discarding Gibberling is not the way to go about it. Hi3 is well in the lead here.
Yeah, I think that as much as GivePLZ will fight, he knows there's essentially no way back in. And Samuro off the top, even if it's not buffed, the fact that Parade Leader is sticking around as a 4/5, that is going nowhere. Samuro will be able to clear up any development that GivePLZ is able to find. I mean, it's looking like the best he'd even be able to get is Solar plus Arbor, which obviously just leaves him dead. So he tries to find some other miracle by going for the Guidance here.
At least he's free to play spells now. The board is full.
True.
If you want to look at it that way. Lunar into another Guidance. Into Concede.
Yeah, I mean, there's no AoE in Druid anymore with Starfall and Swipe taken out. Nothing doing here. So Hi3 takes arguably the least favorable matchup, and it is his first step in this series. And if he gets the win, that will be his first step in staying alive in Grandmasters with this series overall. If he takes the win over GivePLZ, he is not safe, but he is not then auto-relegated. It's so close for him here, and he just has the Paladin and the Rogue left to get 2 wins against this Token Druid once again.
And you did call the Warrior versus Token Druid arguably the least favorable because, let's be honest, this Warrior is running a couple of the cheat cards against Token Druid. It's the Ogremancers and the Cult Neophytes, which are not present in the Paladin. Rogue, of course, has double Cult Neophyte kind of core these days as one of their main tools to just keep the field contact engine going and disrupt a lot of the decks in the meta, not just Token Druid. But the Libram Paladin doesn't have any of those tech choices, right? They're very much on their own game plan, but it so happens that their own game plan often is tough for Token Druid to deal with because of Oh My Yogg and because of the Blade Master Samuro that can get buffed by Libram of Wisdom.
Yeah, that's really what you're looking for, is just these super aggressive starts. You're getting in the way. But weirdly enough, I think we've seen like a couple of times where even if Libram Paladin gets these quite slow hands where they just draw Aldor Truthseeker, Tailland, Librams of Hope, that can actually get there. Like, unless the Token Druid gets the high attack buffs, which is pretty much purely Arbor up at this point, it's often very difficult for the tokens to actually trade up well into 8/8s with Taunt and Divine Shield, because there's no Savage Roar anymore, so sticking aboard in this matchup is far from a guaranteed win, even if it does still put you in a very good spot. So for Hi3, I think there's a couple of avenues to victory here. Few of them will beat an early massive Glowfly, but he's definitely not out of the running yet, as Aldor Attendant in the starting hand is as good a start as any.
Absolutely. Hits the Knight of Anointment to keep the card draw going as well. Hand of Adal coming off of that could be absolutely huge. Or you could just draw it off the top so the curve works out perfectly. GivePLZ has Gibberling in the opener, but none of the great support cards to go with it, so maybe relying on the Guess the Way to really get that done. This Oh My Yogg for Hi3, if it does come down, I'd expect it to be after he's seen the coin.
Yes, definitely would say that's most likely. Hi3 with a weird spot where very often when I'm against Token Druid as Paladin or align with it, but it's an interesting line that I think is often worth talking about against Token Druid.
Yeah, here and there definitely spots to go for it. Interesting again for Hi3 where he could develop like the hero power, which somewhat has synergy with the Librams if you want to like trade the 2/2 and then trade the Knight of Anointment with your second Libram of Wisdom. So it's close. I don't mind him going Oh My Yogg plus 1 Libram, but I thought it might go on the 1/1 potentially, but Hi3 is going full aggro.
Wow! And he just slams down Fungal Fortunes without testing for the coin. That was really, really fast.
Yeah, I did not expect that.
Okay.
I mean, still a decent outcome for Hi3.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not sure about the Libram placement, not just because of the 2/2s that come out, but it could have been like just any other minion with this decent amount of attack from GivePLZ. Like you kind of want to take value trades at this point instead of bouncing the Librams back and forth, I think.
Yeah, I do agree with you just about on that one. Hi3, although he seems to be pretty visibly upset, as, you know, it was a good outcome for GivePLZ off of the Oh My Yogg. Overall, he's not in that bad of a spot. He's got Aldor Truthseeker, Talon, he's never running out of value. And already, Lady Liadrin is a pretty good draw with the amount of Librams of Hope he's played.
True. He's just worried because from his perspective, it could have been Coin Glowfly this turn. GivePLZ does not have it though, and still does not have it after the Glowfly. But what he does have is potentially Arbor with Solar. There's not a nice way to get it done next turn though, because even if he does bank the mana with Nature Studies, he can't start Coin or start Solar Eclipse because that would ruin the order he needs it to come down.
Yeah, wow, I was going to say I think you're saving the...
Oh, Lightning Bloom!
The Nature Studies here, but either way, GivePLZ will be happy with the way this is shaking out. Hi3, I think I'd rather see Aldor on this turn. Like, giving yourself the potential of Libram of Hope off the top feels more worth it than Talon Fordring getting you Lady Liadrin, which you can just do next turn anyway.
I agree. Liadrin doesn't come down till turn 7, so I like the attack front-loaded here. But oh my goodness, is GivePLZ going to pop off next turn? Hi3 has just seen him stay at 10 cards and not mind overdrawing. You know you're in trouble when that happens. It's Gibberling, Lightning Bloom. I guess you waste the discount that way, but he can fit in Gibberling Solar Arbor is the big deal here.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing I will say is that when I have said that it's just a slam Gibberling Solar Arbor play, sometimes I will admit that players have found better lines where you should go for Soul of the Forest first and then follow up with Solar Arbor because you are almost guaranteed to stick a board anyway at that point. But I will say that once again, it looks like a pretty clean play of just going Solar Arbor with all these Gibberlings.
At this point, a lot of the minions will have 4 health or even 5 health. It's actually just all different breakpoints, right? And so, only thing GivePLZ is afraid of is Samuro. And how big does Samuro get maximum this turn when there's only 2 Librams in play? It's like 3 attack, which doesn't deal with... I mean, it deals with the 6/4s, to be fair.
Man, this
but it's not even hand.
Right, like the Cariel is a good draw, of course, because it has Rush. You can just kill off an extra minion here, but you kind of want to get down Talon on this turn now, because Lady Liadrin could be pretty good. I guess you're not expecting to have a board, so Lady Liadrin would be a bit too slow next turn.
Super close. Okay, because he's able to bounce the Librams like this, he can take one more not value trade because he wants them back in hand, and then he can go Cariel with the Librams on the taunt, you'd have to imagine?
You'd think so.
Hero power?
Yeah.
There's still room for just Talon, and then you can Libram the 4/6 and take a value trade on the 6/4. I don't hate that.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'm wondering is if you go Librams on the hero power just so that no value trades are available, because you could go Cariel into the 6/4 and then trade into the 4-3 so that they can't just hero power down your Aldor Truthseeker. There's a lot of different ways you could sequence this, but in the end, Hi3's not going for Carriel at all. Instead, just going with the Talon.
And it's because he wants the Liadrin, and to be fair, she's very powerful, gets so many Librams back into the hand. If GivePLZ decides to get through it, and if GivePLZ doesn't kill it, then Hi3's happy. So I don't mind the line whatsoever.
Oh, awkward spot though for GivePLZ. The hero power would be very nice on this turn, of course, just to deal with the Divine Shield. And admittedly, Power of the World is quite good, because then you get a VT as well.
It's so awkward because he kind of wants the Pride's Fury, so these minions are not dead to the 3-3, but then they're all dead to the 6 attack minion anyway. And so Soul of the Forest doesn't accomplish that much. It allows him to kill off the 6-2, but then that would bounce the Librams back to Hi3's hand for him.
Yeah, I think Soul is a little too passive here. My initial instinct is definitely to go for hero power plus Power of the Wild. However, wow, Pride's Fury felt like a more impactful, immediate play. But here for GivePLZ, if he is going to go for the trades, it's a pretty unimpactful board. I guess just taking one trade, but Samuro off the top is an insane draw to find for Hi3.
I think GivePLZ's thought process was, I want to kill off just the 6-4, and if I don't kill the Talon or remove the shield this turn, then Hi3 can't go for Liadrin, which is what GivePLZ is most afraid of. But with the Samuro, I don't think it's good this turn because it gets way better later on with the Librams of Wisdom, and Hi3 can already deal with like most of this board with just Carriel, right? But having that in his back pocket is so big because these Librams of Wisdom are not going anywhere.
I mean, all he would need would be Lady Liadrin to be able to be played, and then he could get up to like a 10 attack Samuro or something absurd here, and just obliterate any board. He is going for the slightly faster Samuro, of course, though, which is still pretty good. Leaves a couple of 2-2s in play, but gets him decidedly ahead on board right now.
Right, why didn't he attack the 2-2 with Samuro?
I think he thought the Death Rattle would go in a different order.
Oh.
Would be my best guess. Otherwise, yes, it's just wrong.
Well, that's a big resource to have used for Hi3, though. I mean, I feel like if GivePLZ had second Glowfly here, Hi3 is like kind of in a bad spot, potentially. Talon's still not immediately dead to that.
True.
As it happens, he has Lunar Eclipse into Arbor. Doesn't feel good enough.
You could
maybe Adorable with the
first.
Might be that desperate of a situation. He just does not want to kill Talon this turn because it's giving Hi3 a very, very strong play. Yeah, I think I'm into the Lunar Arbor with Adorable line. Gives him strong board presence. Yes, the Talon will immediately trade into something and give him Liadrin, but I didn't expect that.
Was that really a concede there?
I don't think so.
Like,
I don't think so. Hi3 himself is surprised.
He gets Liadrin, obviously, which is powerful, but Samuro is not a repeat effect, right? It's a one-time effect you get. It was a powerful play, of course, unless it was guaranteed lethal on the following turn, which I don't think it was. Very surprised to see that.
Yeah, I don't think that was guaranteed lethal either, especially since he could have lunared one of those minions.
Yeah.
This was a very weird pan out overall because I seriously don't think Hi3 had to play Samuro this turn. If he was going to leave one minion on the board, he could have left, he could have gone wider on the board, right, with Carriel and the 3-4 and had the Samuro in hand. Left 2 minions on board, but that's not a big deal if you have Samuro in hand, so you can still play around second Glowfly. But then GivePLZ, after seeing that he didn't hit second Glowfly, decided that he had no more outs, but he still had ways to build board with the Arbor up. So I'm just quite shocked at how that actually ended.
Yeah, obviously did not expect to see that. Maybe GivePLZ is privy to some you know, intricacies of the matchup to which we are not intimately aware. But either way, oh, did I mess up the key cards here? Oh, I apologize. As this is the Miracle Rogue. I thought I had corrected this over to the Miracle Rogue. Must have forgotten to press save changes, as is often my downfall. But it is, for the most part, a very standard version of Miracle Rogue. You are going for Penflinger here instead of the Orc Merchant, and then swapping out the Vanessa for an Ogremancer, which, again, as you kind of correctly put it, is one of those cheat cards against Token Druid. There is very little that they can do if an Ogremancer does come down. And so here, by the skin of his teeth, it's kind of feeling like Hi3 may be able to get the win. We have seen time and again Miracle Rogue do well against these Token Druids, and when you slot in an Ogremancer, it's only going to get better.
Yes, indeed. However, Hi3 was on this matchup last week on stream, where I do think he had options to try and get the matchup unlock a little bit better. Double Octobot keep did happen there, which I won't fault if you keep just that without the Vanessa that he ended up keeping, but he ran out of resources. So maybe Hi3 had a little bit more practice since then, and the keep on the Ogremancer with the coin, I don't mind whatsoever.
Well, here we go. Game 5, once again, all coming down to this for Hi3. If he can get the win, then he is safe for another day. Even if not for another season, he will have to keep on winning after this. But a good start, of course, for GivePLZ. Vate Fungal into a second Fungal is a lightning fast start. But it's going to have to be a lightning fast start if he wants to overcome Coin Ogremancer available to Hi3 in a couple turns' time. This is going to be a close one.
Oh, but with the other Vate picked up, GivePLZ can get the Glowfly online before the Ogremancer comes down, and that is the huge difference maker because Hi3 doesn't have that many answers. It's the full board even after having discarded the Gibberling.
He's just saying no Glowfly, no Glowfly, no Glowfly, but there it is, the full suite. 7 Glowflies coming through. Coin Ogremancer is just too slow. GivePLZ will happily trade 4 of them into there, or even 3 with a hero power, however you want to do it. So I think GivePLZ needs to find an alternate line.
I think GivePLZ would happily play an Arbor up into the Ogremancer and then trade like 2 of them or none at all. Like 1 goes into the taunt, the rest can ship face, and then GivePLZ needs to play 0 spells after that to win the game. So in terms of Hi3's outs here, we could see Foxy Brain Freeze and Wicked Stab deals with 2 and you trade another. It's really slow though, still losing to Arbor. Maybe it is just Ogremancer and pray that there's no buff spell. That might be Hi3's best line.
It's possible, you know, if he has to trade 3 or 4 of them into there, that's a big deal, of course. Right. The other line is effectively field contact coin Foxy and hope to hit Shadow Step into Shadow Step with like, I don't even know, like getting down the Prize Plunderer, the Brain Freeze, like you'd need so many things to go your way. He does end up on Ogremancer 1 turn too late.
There's not enough mana to do the Prize Plunderer turn, even if he got it off the first draw. So 1 Glowfly into 3-2, Arbor up, win game.
That does feel like a win game, doesn't it?
I don't think he needs to deal with the Ogremancer if he just has a gazillion stats on board.
I think it's worth, like, isn't that the one way that you lose if they go for some insane clear turn with, like, I don't know, passage into quadruple Prize Plunderer being played? If we're going super fringe.
Maybe. Yeah, sure. If the board state ends up like this for GivePLZ because he had Lunar Eclipse, then this is just safer overall.
Well, there it is. Field contact, Foxy, Shadow Step. It looks okay, but maybe looking at it closer, it's a Penflinger turn, right? You can clear off a decent amount on this turn. You can actually only leave them with 2 minions on board. It's a lot better than it initially appeared.
But does he completely nuke his field contact turn for the next turn if he does that?
Not really. He's still got Foxy and Shadow Step, right? Like, of course he needs a lot of help from the top of his deck, but I wouldn't call it over.
Yeah, I agree. So Penflinger into a 4-1, Brain Freeze another 4-3, Penflinger the 4-1 again, and then Wicked Stab with Dagger, another 4-3. You probably just leave the Penflinger on board by that. Well, I guess not necessarily because of the field contact.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the only way that you can play it out as Hi3.
Oh, sorry, the
Again,
Wicked Stab is ranked up, so he doesn't even need to Dagger.
Yeah, which is a big deal because he's taking quite a bit of damage now. GivePLZ, I mean, there's obviously a decent play in just going for Thorn Growths plus Soul of the Forest, but he might be looking for something even more aggressive off of the Nature Studies. Obviously, if he could hit Arbor up off of either of those, that would be insane.
Yeah, I do like just starting with Nature Studies, see what's in the box. Oh, wow. Okay. Going as wide as possible. This front loads more of his damage, but it's a bit less durable. To be fair, he has seen Brain Freeze. But if there's some miracle prize plunderer, runner Brain Freeze from Hi3, maybe?
Maybe. And he has to go. If ever he was going to get there, this is the hand that maybe can do it. He needs prize plunderer here to have any way of pulling this back.
Care to make a wager, friend?
Oxy. Nope. He has one more try with Penflinger on the 1-1 Marcel.
Yeah.
But then no more mana to play a potential prize plunderer.
Well, no, it's free, right? Because the Foxy.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
He missed it here, so you have to go again. Probably step the Penflinger rather than the Foxy here, right?
Yeah. Deals immediate damage. He still has that combo discount front-loaded, but even if it's prize plunderer off the top, he can only do the 4-3 and the 5-4. No mana.
Flurry. Oh, Shooting Star is so close. If it got Brain Freeze, he could have Shadow Stepped the Foxy to replay it, but I don't think any of this is enough to get there. There's just lethal damage represented already, so Hi3 going with the Miracle out. He can still get Brain Freeze or Prize Plunderer here, just to keep himself alive on board.
With every draw, Hi3's reaction says it all.
And that's just going to be it.
Yeah.
A straight-up hero power is enough for GivePLZ to take the series, and it was so close. Hi3, if nothing else, gave us an incredible performance here to keep things very exciting towards the end. But that is going to be, unfortunately for him, the end of the run. Congratulations, of course, to GivePLZ taking the win there. A big deal to try and get up towards the upper end of the playoffs. But for Hi3, it was his first season of Grandmasters, but for the moment, it looks like it will be his last. Could, of course, re-qualify through to the system thanks to Masters Tours. But for the moment, at least, that's going to be all we're seeing from Hi3. So we're going to have to say goodbye. Very well played over this series, over this season, for that matter, in Grandmasters, but it was not quite enough.
Big thumbs up from GivePLZ there. He does have more chances to make it to those top seedings of the playoffs bracket, which means more chances at the World Championship. But on the other